Let's talk about politics and religion. Just in time for the holidays. That's a great way to say save on Christmas presents, by the way. I don't have anything in my awesome mug that I hope you will buy one. Great Christmas gift. I'm not kidding. And a whole bunch of other things too. Shirts, hats, all at my website, charliesimons.com. Charliesimons.com. So I'm appalled at how expensive olive oil is. I'm a believer in olive oil. I drink it. I drink a shot a day of olive oil. And oh shoot, the little opening thing just snagged, and that's stupid. Anyway, the price of olive oil is all of a sudden just ridiculous, and I don't want the whole filtered and refiltered and super virgin whatever. I just give me first pressing. Just give me the actual squeezings, the first squeezings of the olive, even if it has a little pulp in it. I don't care. I'm not doing it for cooking. I don't do fine cuisine. I'm doing it because of the health benefits of it. So, um, out here on the West Coast, I don't know if you have them where you are. It's called the grocery outlet. Grocery outlet, bargain market. There you go. And they've got great prices on everything. But they got the whole Bartoli and all these different kinds of olive. And then I saw this one and I went, it says Chef's Life. Now I'm not making money off this. I make money off of you buying merchandise off of my website, charliesimons.com. That's where I actually make money to help the show stay on the air. And oh, by the way, go into nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons right there. Just put your phone on that QR code. Boom, it'll take you right to it. nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons. Speaking of healthy, that's where I'm getting my collagen, my coffee drink, my energy drink, and not your jittery, caffeinated, crappy monster drink kind of stuff. This is all made in the United States of America, naturally derived. It's a health company, health benefit, and looks, beauty, all that stuff, which apparently I'm not getting those products. But nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons. So I'm not making anything from these folks. I don't even know who they are, Chef's Life. But I'm reading this and I'm looking for something cheaper. And this one was $6.99, $7, and all the rest of them were like 9, 10, 20. And it said, use this oil for finishing. What the hell is that? Use this oil for finishing? Is that like a top oil in a high performance car? You know, an older vehicle, you put in top oil. What is that? So I start reading it. I find my glasses, which I'm not seeing right now because I'm not wearing my glasses. So that's a conundrum. And it says vegan. Of course, it's vegan. It's freaking olive oil. What are you going to put meat in olive oil? What is wrong with you? Stupid marketing crap. Let's see. Produced in California, which doesn't always necessarily make it good. But I'm reading all the ingredients and I see non-GMO extra virgin olive oil. Boom. Why didn't you just say that? I might have bought your product right off the shelf because it was only $6.99. Chef's Life. Love to cook. Now, see, there it is. That's the problem. This must be some kind of cooking thing. And if you're into grilling and cooking and all that stuff, you know exactly what that means, I guess. I don't. Come on. I heat and reheat. I have an air fryer, I have a microwave oven, and I have a toaster oven. Oh, I love that toaster oven. So I don't cook. I might grill for you, but anyway, I didn't have anything to drink. I brought all this up just to get me a shot of olive oil to prove to you that I drink a shot of olive oil a day. Shot of olive oil a day keeps the doctor away, and a lot of other things too. So people who enjoy breath that's not smelling like olive oil keeps them away too. Pura vida. Breakfast of champions. Happy Thanksgiving. Drizzle olive oil all over everything. And this is Spike. He's on my lap right now, which is where he always tries to be while I'm on the air, and I usually try and keep him off. But there you go. Now we got a Spike sighting. I'm ready to go. I got my olive oil, and I got a spike sighting. So let's do it. John Goodman is my guest today on Do Not Talk, and I really get a kick out of him. He's a lot of fun to talk to. He's got just a plethora of information. And I only thought of plethora and using that word. It's a nice big fancy word because I had a shot of olive oil. It makes me smarter. And nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons. Commercial over. John Goodman's on the air. And 4 months ago, he and I were talking about election fraud. He's out of Florida. And you remember during the whole George Bush Al Gore thing, Florida just couldn't seem to figure out how to read these hanging chads. Anyone remember that? It went to the Supreme Court. That's the only reason why we got George W. Bush as president instead of Al Gore, which would have been catastrophic, by the way. I'm not exactly a George W. fan, but he was my president, and he did some extraordinary things, and he did some other things that I was like, yeah. What? Why? However, point being, far better than anything the left has to offer, as we saw through 8 years of Bill Clinton. What a catastrophe. Obama? Barack Obama? Barry Soetoro? What the hell's wrong with my fellow Americans? What were you thinking? And then Joe Biden. Truly the worst president this country's ever had. Excuse me, Spike. I got to put you down here. Spike's got a girlfriend over there. It's a stuffed bison. Not an actual real bison. It's pretty good size. It's got 4 legs it stands on. It's got all the bison fur. It looks like a bison, like a stuffed animal. That's it. It's a toy. It's his girlfriend now. Anyway, back to Biden Bush, or Gore Bush rather. All the election fraud that's happened since then, and I've only gotten better and better at it. Our state of California is rampant, rife with it, with so much corruption, crime, especially when it comes to elections. We got some dirty, dirty people in tremendous positions of power. And I'm not blaming the politicians all the way. I blame my own fellow Californians for letting it happen. Sorry if you're clicking out because of that. I'm going to call you on your crap. The worst crap is sitting there not voting at all. Not even, well, my vote doesn't count. You suck. You've left the rest of us to flounder in that wasteland of absolute corruption. It's not a march towards communism in the state of California. It's a sprint. Look what happened in New York. That's next here. You think we're going to actually have a Republican governor next year in the 2026 election? Well, people are sick and tired of Democrats. Not enough of them. And there's far too many illegals who are voting and far too many ways that they've cheated with elections that it doesn't frickin' matter. And you're not even talking about it. Our own elected representatives never even bring it up. Shannon Grove, maybe. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio. That's about the end of it. I hear Kevin Kiley talking about it, or Tom McClintock. What happened to you, McClintock? I used to think you were so awesome. Joe Patterson. I don't hear anybody talking about election fraud, at least in my districts, Northern California. Not a word. And then when I have Steve Hilton on, who's running for governor and a good conservative, I think he'd do a good job. I'm not endorsing him because there's others who I like better than him. And it's not for me to endorse and tell you who to vote for till it gets closer. I'm just encouraging you to actually show up for the primary and the midterm elections, because that's where we lose elections, especially in California. That's where we're losing them, because you're not showing up. You're just not. Oh, Charlie, you're lecturing the audience again. Everybody's tuning out. Nobody's going to like you. I don't care. I got a state to save and I got a country to save. And if you tune out because of that, strap on a set. Suck it up, Buttercup. This guy, John Goodman, who I had on the air 4 months ago, he's a straight talking dude, and I got a kick out of him. And he doesn't pull punches. You don't pull punches. Back to here's a little flashback to when we were talking about executive orders, and that's what started this whole show. Because I'm asking, the state of California is freaking lost, and our own dad blame electorate isn't even showing up for the Republicans aren't showing up for midterms and primary elections. We suck. We're blowing it. We're blowing it so hard. Can the president stop it? Can the president save it? Let me flash you back 4 months ago with John Goodman.
4 ways legally that he can, that the Democrats will not even, they'll whine about it, about losing the cheat when absentee ballot is now back and national vote by mail is gone. They'll whine about it, but by the time the show's over, your viewers and everyone will understand that there's no actual recourse for the Democrats in this case. Right.
Good.
So let's start with this. Let's start with, we all know that the broadest powers that the president of the United States has is in 2 areas, and that is pardons. That's how Joe Biden got away with his crazy 10-year pardons, pardoning people for crimes we don't even know about yet.
His own family members.
Right, crimes we don't even know about yet. I mean, Hunter Biden could be charged with a crime tomorrow. He's already pardoned for it.
Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci. His other broadest area is called national security. And you were referring to that, Charlie. And now, we've always suspected it, but now the FBI has conclusive proof of China interfering in the 2020 elections. And the scheme. So Kash Patel, thank you. Kash Patel, our FBI director, has in his possession thousands of fake IDs from China. And what was the scheme? And you can see it from John Solomon and Kash Patel right there. The scheme in 2020 was people in this country from China, Chinese nationals, they were allowed to be here on visas, but they weren't allowed to vote. They were sent IDs. And so, because in 2020 it was all vote by mail, they got away with voting. And he has several thousand of those IDs, and there's been 1,200 people arrested. So Donald Trump, now that we have conclusive proof of a foreign country interfering in our election, he has every authority in the world to take the necessary steps to do just to shore up our elections. And it's ironic that this happened in 2020 because 2 years earlier, in 2018, Donald Trump did an executive order giving the president, not just him, but future presidents, the authority to interject in elections if there is conclusive proof of a foreign country or a foreign entity election interference. And it's funny because at the time he did that EO, this hadn't happened yet. The EO was in 2018. And of course, the biggest fraud started with the all mail-in nationwide in China in 2020. So he's got that. And it was upheld by the Supreme Court. It was challenged when he did that EO about presidents can interject if there's foreign interference. It was challenged.
Executive order.
And the Supreme Court upheld it. So he can fall back on his own EO from 2018. National security. We've got to cut down the number of ballots in the mail so China and other people can't cheat. He's got that angle. And let's not forget, everyone, that he's also got a big one, that absentee ballot has been in the voting system since 1775, 250 years, and boom, like Bewitched, wiggling her nose, right? It's gone. That's going to be so many less votes floating around our country than the tens and tens and tens of millions when it's wide open in 37 states. And
talk about this one right now. Trump has attempted to the Constitutional Accountability Center. Trump has attempted to make a distinction between absentee ballots and the ones received in states that use and universal mail-in policies. President Trump said, this is going back last year, absentee ballots, by the way, are fine, but the universal mail-ins that are just sent all over the place where people can grab them and grab stacks of them and sign them and do whatever you want, that's the thing we're against.
That was both discouraging, frustrating, but encouraging all at the same time. So I'm looking for more of that now because John Goodman, he's able to talk about things that at the time he could not actually come right out and talk about or tell me how he knows these things. And I don't rely on unnamed sources. I don't do all that stuff. That's the media, and I'm no longer part of that. I'm in the alternative media now. Let's get him in the mix. I also want you to see these videos that he's compiled, especially with President Trump, with Vladimir Zelensky sitting there looking all, what do I do now? That's a good one. You ready? Hit it. Sweet. What's up, brother?
Hey, good to be back with you, Charlie. Wow, this is great.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
so happy to see you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate your time too. So I had Dr. Jerome Corsi on my show, and I was absolutely thrilled about it because I admire him so much. And that was thanks to you. I appreciate that. I don't know if I should have said that out over the air, how I got that
Okay.
contact
Okay.
information. Thank
We're
you for that.
transparent. That's okay.
He talked about executive orders and how this could fix the election fraud too. But all of it has been kind of like, well, we don't know how and how we're going to apply or how it can actually work. Or if you do know, you can't talk about it because it's all very hush hush. But I know that as a constitutional republic, we thrive on honesty and transparency and knowing what's really going on. We've had way too many decades of hiding and doing things behind closed doors, and that's how we got to the point where we are now. So, what's happening? Tell us what's going on now. How can we fix our freaking elections, especially
Okay.
here in states that are controlled by the left?
Right. Well, as Charlie just played that clip of me on your show, it was in July. And at that point, we were authorized just to acknowledge that there was an executive order that was being drafted. But at the time, we were not authorized to actually talk about the contents. Okay.
Okay.
So today, before this show's over, we're going to be detailed of what is actually in that executive order. And I want to make it clear to your viewers, do not talk is no joke, because before I came on this show the first time in July, after we had received authorization to at least acknowledge that one EO was being drafted, we were in a meeting discussing who was going to release it and how. And my boss, his name is Steve Stern. He is like one of the top election integrity people in this entire nation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. And he had been on Do Not Talk with Charlie before. I had not. And he said, I think that John ought to go on Do Not Talk with Charlie Simons, because Charlie Simons is a loyal Republican. He's a California delegate, and he's in one of the most hostile areas of this country. So that's why I think we ought to do it on Do Not Talk with Charlie.
And now I get the most hostility from my own party.
Well, I wasn't trying to cause that, but
Pointing
based on
out
where you're
their
located,
lack
I'm
of
not
action.
surprised. Yeah.
I'm so frustrated. I've had fellow even podcasters and broadcasters and media people tell me, Charlie, you talk too much about election fraud. People aren't interested in it. It's a tune out. Why? Why would we not be completely up in arms about all of this and demanding answers, but we're not? Why is that, do you think?
Well, number one, they're not going to be able to avoid talking about it in the next 1 to 2 months, because every single station in the country, whether it's right-leaning, left-leaning, independent, because this executive order affects every registered voter in the United States, regardless of party.
Good.
So there's not going to be any avoiding dealing with it and talking about it. And later in the show, we're going to tell everyone exactly what's in it. We just
Well,
got that
we know the
authorization.
president definitely has put some research into it. This when Vladimir Zelensky was here, what, half a year ago or 5 months ago, he wait a minute, reverse that. It's only been like 3 months, hasn't it?
No, this video that you're going to show from President Trump is more recent than that. He was here for one day. One day, and it was October 27th. So it's fairly new. He was here for one day. He was in and out like in 5 hours, and it was here. And he was here to talk quickly about a specific.
He thought he was going to, like Biden was going to hand him billions of dollars, but instead, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance sat there and took him to task in front of the world. It was beautiful.
So what I'm doing back here today is, now that we have permission to release details, it just made sense to come back onto the same show that we originally divulged that there was an EO even being drafted. So that's why I say Do Not Talk is a quality show, and it is breaking relevant national news. And at the end of the show, we're going to save a little teaser. At the end of the show, we're going to give you specifically what is in it, why it's going to hold up in court, right? Because, you know, we know
a lot of dirty judges.
That's right.
Ready to shoot anything down.
And don't think when developing and drafting that we're not fully aware that we have judges that make rulings that straight up violate the Constitution.
That's why it's so imperative that we win this midterm election in record numbers, that we have people coming out and voting for Republicans. I don't care if you belong to the Republican Party or not. You've seen what the Democrats do. If you're sick of that and you don't want any more of that, get registered to vote now and show up for that election next November, or even before that here in California, show up in the primaries. Up in the primaries, because elections are won and lost at the primary elections in California, at least with our jungle primary crap that we have. So anyway, Vladimir Zelensky, the leader, the king, self-appointed king of Ukraine, because he canceled the elections. That's a good trick. Was there, and a reporter asked President Trump about an executive order concerning elections. Completely off topic, inappropriate place to be asking a question like that, but his response was brilliant. Let's watch it.
Corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots.
Let me try this again. Let me get this again.
Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country.
Trump says he will sign an executive order to eliminate mail-in ballots and machines.
Put down on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you explain on that? How?
Well, that's a very off-topic. Just really quickly, mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change are the machines. For all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster results. The machines, I mean, they say we're going to have the results in 2 weeks. With paper ballots, you have the results that night. Most people, but most people, many countries use paper ballots. It's the most secure form. So between paper ballots, very, very important, paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed like all the people you've been watching get so badly hurt. I'm glad, I hate to take your time with this, but I'm glad you asked me that question.
Sorry.
We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt. You know, when you go to a voting booth and you do it the right way and you go to a state that runs it properly, you go in, they even ask me, they asked me for my license plate, for identity. I said, I don't know if I have it. He said, sir, you have to have it. I was very impressed, actually. But it's very hard to cheat with mail-in voting. As you know what happens in California, it's so corrupt, where some people get 5, 6, 7 ballots delivered to them.
I know.
We got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things. Otherwise, you don't have. We have strong borders now. In 90 days, Mr. President, we didn't have 0 in 3 months. Not one person came in illegally into our country. In fact, even I find that hard to believe, but it's run by a little bit of a liberal group that put out the numbers, so I guess it's but 0, 0, and 0. You go back a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 millions of people poured into our country. It was terrible. Thank you very much.
And in California, those millions of people are all voting. They're all voting because of the motor voter law. It is so corrupt, so dirty. How can a president, though, usurp state rights according to our United States Constitution, John?
Okay, first of all, Dr. Jerome Corsi, who you had on your show, him and I communicate maybe twice a month, and not on a daily basis. I don't want to misrepresent, but about twice a month. And he's one, as you know, he's one of the authors that was tasked by President Trump to write this election executive order, as I'm sure you found out. So the bottom line is, when I was on this show 4 months ago, I told your viewers that there was an executive order being drafted. The problem over the last few months is President Trump's talked a lot about rigged elections, and I kept saying to myself, when is he going to say the words executive order? Because I knew it. And just quickly to tell your viewers who are wondering how I know about this, and I won't take a lot of time, I supplied some documents, and we'll look at one of them today. I supplied some documents that came in very handy and in the drafting of this executive order. And I'm a private citizen. I have not worked with national people in the White House before and probably never will again. So this is new territory for me also. But I was lucky enough to be in possession of some documents that were vetted and ended up being a big help. And the help that these documents are going to give and the whole executive order, what's in it, we will talk about before the show ends. But at least the viewers can see that on Do Not Talk in July, when this show communicated to your viewers there was an executive order in the works, and everyone was like, I've never heard about it. I don't know. It sounds awful far-fetched to me. Well, President Trump, that was October 27th, less than a month ago, he finally divulged what I knew. But again, it's a lot of help when the president codifies what I've been saying publicly. But the first person and the first show to ever know about this executive order was Do Not Talk and Charlie Simons. So we'll talk about how the left cannot obstruct this executive order when we get to that part. Right now, Charlie, what I wanted to do is talk about a couple things that are really hurting the Republicans, and that is called lawfare. And we know, but your viewers probably know, but lawfare in simple terms is the weaponization of our court and judicial system, just to put it in simple terms. So we know when Joe Biden was president, I want to talk about the auto pen. That's what I want to talk about to start with. because I'm sure your viewers are tired of the talking head saying, well, maybe he signed it. Maybe it was auto pen. I'm just not sure, And then every time there's an investigation, they take the fifth, and we don't find anything else in the Judiciary Committee. So what I wanted to do today for your viewers is I wanted to give them a contrast. I want to give them something to wrap their arms around so they can make a decision, not from talking heads, but from an actual Biden video and a White House press release. So before you show that video, Charlie, let's just preface it very quickly. This is Senator Joe Biden in November 1993 on the Senate floor. And for those who don't know, when Joe Biden was a senator, he was a crime hawk. He wanted big penalties. He wanted maximum sentences. He worked across the aisle with Republicans like Orrin Hatch. He wanted big penalties. And is that the same Joe Biden that supports cashless bail and catch and release and sanctuary cities? So, Charlie, if you can show that video of Joe Biden in 1993, and it's not just his position on crime, but listen to how he makes the point. It is unbelievable.
Here we go.
Unbelievable. Watch this, folks.
We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will.
Listen to this
or
stuff
a
here.
portion of them will become predators. We have predators on our street that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. We must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change the behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that.
Okay, so
Wow.
how about that, folks? That is Joe Biden, November 1993. And the bottom line is that consistent with the Joe Biden that we saw as president?
No.
Now,
No. What changed? Who got to him?
yeah. And the thing is, there might be some Republicans that agree with him, but the point of this is to show the auto pen, because now that you've seen that video that Joe Biden was off the chain about crime, and always was in 45 years in the Senate. Charlie, if we can bring up that White House release slide about his commutations from death row. Do you have that available? And while Charlie looks that up, I will tell you that in December of 2024, just before Joe Biden was leaving office, when he was doing all his pardons and commutations, Joe Biden emptied out death row. You don't believe me? The White House stationery release, if Charlie has that. Do you have it, Charlie? I know we looked at it earlier.
Sure enough, there it is.
All right. Yeah, we need to open that up full size. But, well, anyway, you can see enough of it. Now, look at this, folks. You saw Joe Biden, the crime hawk, just ranting and raving on the Senate floor. Now, this is from the White House. Joe Biden commutes 37 individuals on death row. But here's what they don't tell you, Charlie, and these lovely viewers that are watching. It says he commuted the sentences of 37, right?
Right.
It doesn't say, though, that there were only 40 to begin with.
So almost
That's
100%
the
of
truth.
them.
Yeah, Charlie and viewers, as we sit here right now, there are only three, I'm telling you, 3 individuals in this entire country on death row. And of those 37 commutations where Joe Biden took them off death row and let them off the hook, included a man who killed a police officer during a bank robbery, including a man who killed another man and his girlfriend during a botched carjacking. And I'll give one more example. Part of one of those 37 death row commutations was a man that killed a 15-year-old girl because she was struggling when he was trying to rape her. Now, is that Joe Biden's signature on those 37 commutations after we just watched what his lifelong stance was on crime?
Great question.
Okay, so that's why forget those talking heads on TV telling you, maybe, maybe not, I'm not sure, we're investigating. Here, we're not even going to try to sway your opinion. We showed you a real video and a real White House release, and now it's up to you to decide. But what I wanted to do, Charlie, was, as I said earlier, give your viewers something that was tangible and real, that they could see and hold and read. So that, I can tell you my opinion, it's pretty damn obvious that those 37 death row inmates commutations were total auto pen from someone that had access to that auto pen machine that is obviously against the death penalty. Still had no right to sign it. It had to come from Joe Biden, and you can see the contrast. So that's my presentation to your viewers on AutoPen, and I think it sends a pretty clear message. And finally, they can see something real instead of just hearing the paid analyst on CNN or whatever station it is.
Right.
So there you go on the AutoPen, huh?
Right.
All right. Some other areas of lawfare, and you do not have any slides on this, but I will just tell the viewers. Many of you are aware of the Tina Peters situation. The elected not appointed, the elected by the people county clerk of Mesa County, Colorado. During the election, she, which is her job, by the way, to monitor elections as county clerk, that is her job. She noticed that the numbers were not jiving, and she started to make a big deal about it and ask questions, and they nabbed her. They nabbed her fast. They threw her in front of a left-wing judge and gave her 9 years in Colorado, and gave her 9 years.
Almost as leftist as California now.
It is unbelievable because she was the elected county clerk. It was her job to ensure that the elections were legitimate. But they knew she was going to expose the fraud, and I spoke to someone that talks to her, but hasn't recently. You know why? Because they have recently moved her to what they call the hole, which someone tells me that's something like isolation.
And she's very ill right now.
And she's ill, and she has no phone privileges. And that is just by design, because they don't want her to be able to share what she saw and discovered in that election in Colorado. And the bottom line to our viewers is, I never thought I would live long enough. Charlie, you probably feel the same way. I never thought I'd live long enough to see the day where we would have an American citizen, political prisoner in the United States of America. And that's what this comes down to. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. She is a political prisoner, an elected official who was doing her job, but because she was going to expose the fraud in a blue state, it was over for her. They took her out of commission. But here's what I want to tell you. There is an unedited 21-minute version of her at final sentencing. This is going to blow your viewers away. If you Google Tina Peters' final sentencing, what you get is just a 3 or 4 minute little snippet of the local reporter in Denver or Littleton, whatever. You've got to scroll down 50 or 60 posts. It's buried. I found it. It's the only one that has the 21-minute, unedited, no commentary, no graphics, no opinions, court camera of what went down at that 21-minute final sentencing of Tina Peters. And it's on my website, or it's on my Truth Social page. I will sneak that in at John Good 1965. We'll say it again later. 21 minutes. Now I want you to hear this judge. He called her during final sentencing. Hold on. He called her a liar twice. He called her a charlatan twice. Charlatan twice. He said he could give her probation, but he's not, because she considers herself an elite. He said that at final sentencing.
That is not his place.
Absolutely. Hold on. We're getting to it. He said that he put a permanent stain on Mesa County, Colorado. Really? Tina Peters did put a permanent stain more than the child molesters and the murderers and the rapists? But Tina Peters is the one that put a permanent stain on the county?
Wow.
And then there's a few other things, but this is what really grabbed me. At the very end of this 21-minute sentencing, he says, the reason why you're getting such a harsh sentence is not just based on what you did, but I want to send a message as a deterrent to everyone else in this country. What? Tina Peters' sentence is based on the judge wanting to send a message to the rest of the country? It is unbelievable.
Arrogant.
It is. And the last thing of that video that I will point out, Charlie, is that the judge finally says, is there anything else that we need to address? And the DA says, oh, you missed count 6. And the judge looks down. He says, yeah, I did miss count 6. You got 15 more months, Miss Peters. Now you've got 9 years. And this is all in the unedited court camera, and you can see it at JOHNGOOD 1965 at John Good 1965. So I will be very frank again.
True social.
I spoke to her lawyer, Peter Tickton, and I speak to him just about twice a month. just like Jerome Corsi, because they're also involved in the executive order on elections that we're going to get to in detail in just a few minutes. And I said, why wouldn't bias of the judge at sentencing be an excellent appeal angle? Because when you watch this 21-minute video, and I assume that somebody will go to my website, there are a lot that have, but I hope some of your viewers will watch this. You don't even have to know who Tina Peters is. You don't even have to know what they claimed she did. But you will come out of it with nothing else than, damn, that judge hated that defendant and had a personal malice and bias towards her because she had already been convicted by a jury. So like you said, Charlie, it was correct. At that point, the judge's duties were just to execute the jury's decision. He went on for 21 minutes, and it was a bash session, personal as can be. Personal as can be. That's what the appeal should be. Peter Tickton told me they have a brief and an appeal coming up in January. He'd see if he could add this in. It may be too late. And it is buried very deep online. So if you go to Tina Peters' final sentencing, scroll way down until you see something that's 21 minutes and change. But it's on my my True Social page, as I said.
I want to know why my own fellow conservative broadcasters and podcasters have not already done that. Why have they not taken that video and compiled it down like that? I'm going to do that. I will do that.
Yeah, well, I just sent you that late last night, Charlie. You haven't had time to view that yet, but, you know, very late last night. So I know you're going to check it out pretty soon, but I'm just giving a preview to, I mean, this is not, even for a liberal, radical, left-wing judge that hates the Republican defendant, this is still way past that.
Yeah.
And so that's lawfare. Because
the problem is too, they made it a state charge on purpose so that President Trump, which it looked like at that point while this was all going on, it was going to be inevitable that he was going to win. So they set it up to where he could not pardon her on purpose. They took a federal charge and made it a state charge, and now she's languishing in a state prison, not a federal prison. And because President Trump cannot help her. This is insane. Right. This is a dirty judge in a dirty system in a dirty state. Colorado, screw you. You suck. You're beautiful, but man, you have definitely blown it. So this has got to end. This is crazy. I don't know what my president can do about it, though. Like in California, what can my president do about a state election? How can he help protect the election that's happening next November here as we have a chance of having another Republican governor and maybe some other conservatives holding office if we would only show up?
I'm going to make your day in a few minutes, Charlie, and make your viewers' day.
I want to know. We only got about 15 minutes left.
All right. So bottom line is, make sure you watch that Tina Peters video. It's over the pale, and you will see exactly why that would be a great grounds of appeal. It was personal from the judge. It wasn't the charges. But when he finally said at the end, I'm giving you such a harsh sentence because it's not just what you did, but I want to send a message to everyone else as a deterrent. There has to be some illegality to that. You can't sentence someone on sending a message to the rest of the world. So hopefully she'll win her appeal, get a new trial with an unbiased judge and an unbiased jury.
And that judge is unemployed. That's my other goal, my other wish, that judge becomes unemployed.
All right. There's two items that I have for you.
Give me some good news
left for you. I don't know if we have time for both of them. We have, the viewers may or may not know, I spent 10 hours and I read the trial transcript. Remember the Donald Trump New York City trial that everyone was saying was phony, but we really didn't have. Yeah, but you know what?
Letitia James and James Comey have now been, those charges have been dropped because of one dirty judge in New York.
Yes, they have. I keep bringing up my website. A month ago, Charlie, we discussed this, I believe. 5 weeks ago, I made a post when I noticed that the judge assigned to the James Comey case was a former employee and friend. and I rang the alarm bells 5 weeks ago. It's on my True Social right
They
now.
should have been recused.
Absolutely.
A judge she should have been recused.
And this is where the Republicans, excuse me, this is where the Republicans shoot themselves in the foot, because I didn't hear a single Republican yelling for recusal.
No.
I mean, how can a former employee and a friend of James Comey be the presiding judge on his case? If Donald Trump had his buddy as a judge on one of his cases, the Democrats would scream until the sky fell in.
Oh, they'd freak. Yeah.
My God. So again, how he ended up on the case to me is irrelevant. And what's more relevant is the Republicans had time to call it out and not a peep. And I posted it 5 weeks before he walked, day before yesterday, 5 weeks ago. But you know what? Again, I am not a national power. So it's too bad that either they didn't catch it or they just didn't give a damn, or I don't know why, but that's why he walked.
Well, let's talk about this executive order. What's in this executive order, and how can we have maybe a little glimmer of hope?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to get right to that now then. You remember 4 months ago, again, I told you there was an executive order coming. People were like, what? Come on. Then I came, and then after I came on the show and divulged that, people were like, that's hard to believe. You're a private citizen, hard to believe. And then Charlie just showed the confirmation of President Trump. So this executive order, this is what is going to happen and why the Democrats can't stop it. And Charlie, don't put it up yet, but get that Supreme Court slide ready.
Don't have it.
No, you already showed it to me.
I don't know why, but I don't have it.
Okay.
I'll put it in later. I will put it in later.
Okay. All right. That's fine. So the bottom line is this. In this executive order, this is how it's going to go down. Donald Trump is declaring a national security emergency because now we have proof that China interfered in our 2020 election. And I made a reference to that 4 months ago, if you remember the video you played at the start of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to invoke his Article 2 powers. Well, number one, the Supreme Court does not hear Article 2 national security cases, just like they don't hear pardons cases, because that's how Joe Biden got away with his 10-year pardons.
Yeah.
Okay. The president's two biggest areas of authority are national security and pardons. And Joe Biden used that for those phony pardons, but nevertheless. So the executive order is going to come via a national security emergency declared by President Trump. And he's going to invoke his Article 2 powers. And what's going to happen is we are going to be back to hand count paper ballots. And I will tell you right now, he's going to use tariff money to install security camera surveillance at every counting station in the United States.
That's brilliant.
That's number one.
That's awesome.
I'm not joking, Charlie. I'm not joking. This is
that's awesome.
This is real. I'm not joking. Mail-in ballot is over. We will be back to absentee ballot, which has been used since 1775. And it's for people can vote from their home if they are elderly or in hospice or overseas military or disabled. Those people, of course, nursing homes, of course, those people have a right to vote. And there are provisions for them to do just that.
Right.
But this national vote by mail-in ballot where I can be 25 years old and the owner of LA Fitness, and I can mail in ballot. No, you can't anymore. So that is the crux of that. And there's even more. There is a check and balance system where the number of people that in that state that qualified to absentee ballot has to match the number of ballots that went out from that state's election bureau. There are penalties. Pam Bondi put out a statement recently, and it actually ended up on the front page of the New York Times. I couldn't believe it. Anyone, regardless whether you're state, local, federal, election worker, counter, transporter, it doesn't matter. Anyone caught cheating in the midterms, regardless of your last name, will be immediately facing federal election interference charges. Donald Trump is not joking around on this one. This is the big daddy of executive
Nor
orders.
am I.
And this is the big daddy because look, think about what happens. Of course, it's the big daddy to Donald Trump because think about what happens.
Look what
If
they
the
did.
Democrats, this is key. If the Democrats are able to once again use phony mail-in ballot to take back the House, they will impeach Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's policies will be stopped in their tracks. Period. AOC will be the Speaker of the House, or Bernie Sanders, or Hakeem Jeffries. It won't be Mike Johnson. And do you think they're going to bring any of Donald Trump's agenda to the House floor for a vote? It's going to be like a Nancy Pelosi do-over is what it's going to be in the House. Yeah. So, and I want your viewers to know that this executive order is not creating any new laws. That would require a constitutional amendment. This is going back to the law. And people sometimes ask me, why didn't Joe Biden just change it back to the law? It's a good question, and here's the answer. If Joe Biden had switched it back to absentee ballot, where only that narrow band of people that legitimately can't make it to the voting station could vote, or can vote by mail, illegals would not be able to vote. In other words, Joe Biden did not switch it back to absentee because with absentee, the only people that can vote through the mail are the elderly and the hospice and the people that really cannot get to the voting station.
Right.
That would have eliminated illegals from voting. Now, it's also been discussed. It may be required. If there's evidence, we're not just going to arrest somebody because they're a Democrat, because that would be stooping to their level of just arresting just because they don't like you. But if there's proof and evidence of cheating in the election, even if it's a big name, they're going to be arrested. And I have been very vocal. It's going to take the arrest of a big name to send the message.
Yep.
In other words, you cannot arrest some state senator in Idaho, some state guy in Idaho, and think that's going to solve it. But if you arrest a national big-time figure, again, only if there's proof of wrongdoing.
Oh, there's all kinds of proof too. Did you see Benny Johnson's latest piece on that? It was absolutely amazing.
No, well, what do you say?
How did that happen with all those votes from China? And why is Argentina actually having any kind of say in our election in any way? What's going on with what's happening in Argentina now in response to what they did in the 2020 and tried again in the 2024 election? This is insane what's happening. This has got to end.
It's about to end, Charlie. And so let me tell you why it's not going to be overturned, because that is always your concern and a lot of Republicans. Hey, it looks good now, but you're going to have a radical judge overturn it.
All it takes is one.
Okay.
One.
Yeah, that's right. So because you don't have that slide right now vacant, I'll read very short. There was a case that I found in 1995, and it's called Term Limits versus Thornton. And it was an Arkansas case where the states wanted the Arkansas just on their own put in term limits, and the incumbent sued them because he couldn't run again and he had a high approval rating. It went to the Supreme Court. And in the written decision of the Supreme Court, they went into a long dissertation of what actually are the state's powers concerning elections. And this is what the Supreme Court in 1995 had to say. The Supreme Court distinguishes the difference between state laws that go beyond protection of the integrity and regularity of the election process and instead operate to disadvantage a particular class of candidates. Wow. Didn't they take Donald Trump off the ballot in 5 states in 2024? And then the Supreme Court, actually 9-0, you don't see that much. Supreme Court 9-0 said that's so unconstitutional, it reeks, and they reversed it. But the fact the states did it. So here we have the Supreme Court in 1995 telling the states that the Constitution, which says the states have primarily 100% power, the Supreme Court is saying that that is procedural. That is procedural, and they cannot go beyond the protection of the integrity of the election and the election process, or do anything that disadvantages a particular class of candidate. And then at the very end of that 1995 written decision by the Supreme Court, listen to this. The framers understood the grant of authority of states to issue procedural regulations and not as a source of power to dictate electoral outcomes to favor or disfavor a certain class of candidates or to evade constitutional restraints. Now, how is that important? Because as soon as Donald Trump signs that executive order, the Democrats are going to be yelling, "You can't do that. The Constitution says that the states have all the power." And I not only submitted this to the White House, but as you know, Charlie, I found a little codicil using 100X. Maybe I didn't even tell you about this. There's a small little codicil that's gone. I wish we had more time. This is where the White House really this is where I got the White House attention, even more than the Supreme Court decision. I spent 6 weeks reading the real Constitution on microfilm, like on brown rotted parchment paper, beige color, at the library. Well, about the 5th week, there was this little paragraph, but you couldn't see it even with the microfilm viewer because only the top of the letters, it was faded so bad. So I went back the next day with my 100X magnifier glass and put it between the microfilm magnifier and the Constitution. And that said, the states can take no action that dictates electoral outcomes unfairly. And then in the Supreme Court decision, they say dictate electoral outcomes. They quoted it right out of the Constitution, and they called what I found the Elections Clause. The Elections Clause. So I asked Trump's lawyer, Peter Tickton, how did they quote what I found in the Constitution in that written decision? He said the Supreme Court a lot of times has a Constitution right in front of them when they're writing decisions, right? And here's the part that's going to blow you away. That was a 5-4 majority for this ruling by the Democrats. In 1995, it was the Democrats that had the 5-4 Supreme Court advantage, and they ruled the states can't overstep. It was the Democrats. It was Souter. It was Stevens. It was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the two other ones I can't think of. The Democrats in 1995. So here's the deal. How's it going to hold? Do you think this Supreme Court is going to overrule the decision of the 1995 Supreme Court? Does anyone really believe that's going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. It never happens, even with partisan politics. Yeah, they overruled the Constitution. But is this Supreme Court, if the Democrats choose to take this executive order that I've just described to you, if they choose, even if they get an appellate judge to put an injunction, when it makes it to the Supreme Court, and it's obviously the Supreme Court now is going to see this has already been addressed by the 1995 Supreme Court, by the Republican 1990, or by the Democrat 1995 Supreme Court, excuse me. Democrat controlled 1995. Is this Supreme Court going to overrule the 1995 Supreme Court? And even Democrat lawyers say that doesn't happen. So that is why there is no recourse. This is what I was trying to tell you, Charlie.
You're right. I really hope you're right, because here's what my understanding of it. The president can establish all these new rules with elections, and yes, we're going to get back to the basics, and you're not going to be screwing around anymore. But he can only say that, and in California, I guarantee you, here's what's going to happen. Okay, we'll apply that only to the federal elections, only if it's a federal office or a federal thing that we're deciding on. When it comes to the states, though, we're going to still continue with the mail-in ballots. We're going to still continue with the ridiculous election fraud that we put into place, and you're not going to do anything about it. So the state of California is not going to change. It's going to still stay dirty as ever, even if other states across the nation get their act together.
Well,
States
but
like
the
New
bottom
York,
line is now you've
California,
got,
Illinois, Colorado, they're not going to comply.
yeah, well, that's what I'm telling you, that the White House is fully aware. And even though it'll be a big blow up, the White House is fully aware that it may require something done as far as legal to a big time name. You know, look, AOC was in the boroughs of New York a few weeks ago when ICE was coming in the boroughs with a bullhorn, yelling on the bullhorn, run, run. If you're illegal, run. ICE is on the way. Run, hide. Now,
that's impeding a federal investigation, isn't it?
That is obstruction of justice. And again, that should have been an arrest because once you have arrested her for doing that, then the Pritzkers and the mayor of Boston and the other ones, they think twice because they have to think about their political career.
But yet they didn't.
They didn't. But in the election, they will. Because Donald, again.
I hope you're right. I mean,
yeah,
we literally have,
Donald Trump wants to
have elected representatives telling military people and law enforcement people not to obey an unlawful order. They don't explain what the unlawful order is.
Well, here's the last thing, Charlie, and this, I think, answers your question. There is major talk right now. The voter rolls are so fraudulent and crooked. They've been tampered with so many times. Republicans may think this is an inconvenience also, but it is a feeling of many in the White House that the only way, along with this executive order, is to require everyone to re-register to vote. That would take the illegals out of play immediately.
I'll do it. Absolutely, I'll do it.
The illegals, the motor voter, all that would be a moot point.
Do over.
So they've been tampered with so much. We have proof of millions and millions of fraudulent mail-in ballots. And by the way,
that's brilliant. I hope it happens.
Look,
but again, there's state voter rolls, and then there's federal. Everything's it comes down to the states, so it'll be.
Well, I've told you what I know is happening, and then when I talked about just now about everyone having to re-register, I said that it is being discussed. Everything else I told you I know is done.
I think it's brilliant.
Done deal.
Mike likes it. We both like it. We're very happy about it. Aren't
Last thing, Charlie, I know the show's almost over. Last thing is
how happy Spike is about that.
Yeah, Spike, yes. We need to have everyone re-register because that really is the only true way to get
Spike's already registered. He's registered as a non-disclosed estate or no party preference, rather.
But the bottom line is the White House is prepared if there is proof and in the election, even if it's a big name. At this point, knowing that Trump would be under impeachment for the last half of his administration, and the House would be up and have a Democrats running the House, we'd be in chaos. So they are prepared to arrest and hold accountable. I'll just use the word hold accountable.
Time for talking is done. People need to be doing the purple.
I got one more last thing, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, Charlie.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
All right. If there's anyone out there that questions whether the 2020 election was rigged or not, let me just give you this. Joe Biden, you look in the history books, Joe Biden got 81 million votes in 2020. In 2024, Donald Trump got 4 million votes less, despite winning every single swing state and the popular vote.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, courtesy, phony, mail-in ballot. Biden got 81 million from a basement campaign during a pandemic. But Trump gets 77 million, 4 million less, winning every swing state in the popular vote. So if there's anybody that is like, I'm not sure what happened if it was rigged or not in 2020, and you can look those numbers up on your phone as soon as you want. You know, that's what they are. Although
Let's
the
do it.
81 million, the 81
do
million
it.
in 2020 is as
Where do we
as
find you,
phony
John?
as a
John,
bill.
where do we find you? Where do we find you?
All right. On True Social at John Good 1965. I'll say it this way, at JOHNGOOD 1965. And I just want to assure your viewers, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I don't post opinions. I listen to opinions. I don't post them. I post facts that I vet, just like I read the entire Constitution, just like I read Donald Trump's entire New York City trial, and it was phony. And we'll talk about that at a future time. There were so many statutes this judge violated because the whole purpose of that New York City trial, quickly, Charlie, was to get Donald Trump incarcerated so he couldn't win the presidency, because at final sentencing, the judge gave Donald Trump 0 jail time, 0 probation, and 0 fine. So if he's such a convicted, terrible criminal, how does judge give him nothing? Because the jig didn't work. The trial was only to get him out of the race so he couldn't
It was
win.
insane. All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for your time.
Great to see you, Charlie. It's great to see you. I love your show, and I hope your viewers pass the word. Do not talk does get scoops before other people. And I don't get paid for saying that. I don't get paid.
All right. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you again. I